All right, well, the latest corruption trends report shows very little actually being done to fight corruption in South Africa. And of course, we're about to find out more about the report's findings from Corruption Watch's Mzwandile Banjanthwa, of course, joining us this morning. Mzwandile, good morning to you, and thank you so much for your time. I mean, take us through the report and what exactly it says about action being taken to fight corruption within South Africa.
Good morning to you, and good morning to the listeners, and thank you very much for having us. So the report actually highlights and does an analysis of reports that we received from the beginning of this year in January until now in June of this year. And we have received about over 1,037 of these whistleblower complaints. Unfortunately, it also unpacks how corruption continues to undermine and erode the fundamental human rights. But it also highlights how corruption happens within the public and the private sector as well. And it shows the persistence, abstract access to basic rights, and the emphasis also that corruption is not a victimless crime, but has serious consequences for many people in our country, along with, of course, a full fallout of the loss of billions of rands through corruption, inadequate protection of whistleblowers, and also the absence of accountabilities for perpetrators who continue to be, which of course continues to be a significant threat to the fight against corruption. So of them, 1,037 report that we've received this year. We have been receiving, on average, 172 of these whistleblower complaints. And we are finding that 62% of these reports come from the public sector, and 25% of them come from the private sector. And when you break down these reports in terms of provinces, 4 of the provinces come on top, and which is Gauteng at 43%, Western Cape at 9%, KwaZulu-Natal and Limpopo tied at 8% of the reports that we are receiving. We're finding that in terms of the sectors, policing is high. And not surprising, because we've been talking about corruption within the SAPS, but this time around, it's not just the SAPS, but it is policing generally, including private security as well. There's basic education, which mainly the reports are predominantly rather coming from the basic education side. And we are also finding that there is huge corruption in the in construction, which is an interesting emergence this time around.
So where does the report, as far as unpacking those are the corruption trends as well, does the report talk to any sort of recommendations that come out of those findings as to who is supposed to be doing what?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that the report, and what is quite fundamental about the report, it's one is to highlight the weaknesses in the system and to explore and to expose where the weaknesses in the systems are. I mean, take for example, we are seeing a rise in reported cases in the private sector than we usually would. So it also goes to show that the private sector as well, which has been seen as a safer way of getting reliable services, particularly for those who are wealthy and affording in our country. We are finding that them too are finding issues of corruption to be a huge problem within the private sector. Fraud is quite high in the private sector. Maladministration is also equally high, and also misappropriation of resources. And some of the issues in the private sector are well known and well documented. But what we are finding are the trends that are beginning to emerge, which raises alarm in various sectors, particularly the construction sector, where we are finding that there is a huge problem there. There has been allegations of the mafia or the cartels that are operating within the construction sector. There are issues of the mismanagement or the lack of taking care of infrastructure that is already there. And these are important infrastructure which would provide services like clinics, like hospitals, like schools, and so forth. As we speak now, the norms and standards of schools in the basic education sector are not being met. Majority of these schools can't even pass the norms and standards which are set by the Department of Basic Education.
Yeah, and Mzwandile, just in terms of geographical location, which provinces show the highest number of corruption?
Yeah, so Gauteng is showing the highest number of reports that we are receiving at 43% of these reports. Like I said, followed by the Western Cape. And what we are seeing in Gauteng, which is a huge hotspot, is that we are finding that bribery is quite high at 27%. There's abuse of power, there's fraud as well. But the Eastern Cape is quite problematic because that is where we find the highest number of procurement irregularities, followed by the Free State as well. And where we're finding the least number of reports is in the Northern Cape. But there too, we're finding that there's a higher reported incidences of bribery and extortion. So that speaks to a whistleblower victimization as well in that particular province of the Northern Cape.
Well, we appreciate your time in joining us. The Corruption Watch Trends report as to exactly how much is being done about corruption in our country. And from what I took away from that, not very much.
Not much at all.
Not much at all. So I think that's the biggest issue as well. It's well known where the corruption is. And was it Gauteng?
Gauteng showing the highest number, 43%. And bribery topping that list. So, you know, it is a big problem that we're seeing in Gauteng. Okay, that trends report, one for you to read for yourself in detail, because it also places whistleblowers and how they too are falling victim of corruption whenever they try and speak up. But of course, we thank Mzwandile Banjanthwa from Corruption Watch for joining us.
That's right, and don't go anywhere while we continue our conversations about tourism here from Sun City over the next 2 days.